That's a top-notch soft landing there, my friend.
Kook of the day, man.
Kook of the day.
No, I got a little gust and it just went, you know, it surges forward.
I thought maybe you hit somebody.
No.
Yo, what up, guys? So today we're gonna review the Ocean Rodeo Roam Aluula 10.
Yeah.
What'd you think, man? You got to try it?
Yeah, I actually went out on a foil.
Yeah, Steve, you're foiled.
Nah, I foiled. It's pretty fun. I mean, I rode the 17 meter the other day, and they're super light, and they just kind of float. So they're really fun. So, and that 10 meter was even more light and floaty because obviously it's smaller. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't blowing more than what, 10, 11 knots.
Not bad. So yeah, let's get to the review. Yo, what's going on, guys? Rago here from Kite. So with Tucker being so busy with the wing foiling videos, I'm gonna take over the kite foil side of Foil Fridays for a while. And the past couple of years I've been working on my foiling, working under Tucker, and just kind of getting my knowledge base built so that I could start doing some comparison videos, talk about different aspects of hydrofoiling. So this is my first go at a full-fledged Foil Fridays, and I'm going to do a review on why I think the Roam Aluula 10 meter is an awesome light wind foiling option. So before we had regular hydrofoiling dedicated kites like the UFO and things like that, most of the team, we were choosing surf kites to go foiling with for a number of reasons, and that's actually still the case today with having the option to be able to go out in the waves, to go into foiling, and a lot of the characteristics of these kites just lend themselves so well to hydrofoiling. They're still a really good choice for a lot of people, and right now I'm down here in Florida and I've been testing the Aluula kites and kind of getting ready for some comparisons. So with the Roam 10 meter, I haven't had a chance to take it in the waves yet, but I have been hydrofoiling with it, and I've kind of come to find that it's a really good light wind option for a number of reasons. So for this first video, I'm going to break down why I think this is a good light wind hydrofoiling kite. So getting right to the point with the Roam Aluula, obviously it's a lightweight material kite, so that gives you the added benefit of being able to take a 10 meter out in threshold winds. Now, I think there's 4 very good reasons why this makes for a good hydrofoiling kite. So the extra power that you can generate in extremely light wind, the ability to shut that power off, the added drift from the lightweight material, and the extra response from the Aluula material. So first up, let's talk about the extra power that you can generate with this extremely lightweight material. So with the Aluula kites, obviously, they're going to fly in extremely light winds. So just to give you some perspective, I had the 17 meter flight out in 6 knots and it was performing like a normal kite without really backstalling or having any issues. So same thing with that 10 meter Roam. I'm about 185 pounds right now, and I was able to get that out in like probably 9 to 14 knots while foiling on the Infinity 76 wing, and I found that I really appreciated having the extra grunt from that 10 meter. I learned to foil on bigger kites, and as I progressed I started going to smaller kites, and some of the more advanced foilers like Tucker, they'll be out on as small as like a 5 meter all the time. That's just like their go-to size, and then they might go up to like a 7 and a 9 is almost a big kite for them. But for more intermediate, lower level foilers, when you're out in those really light winds, it's a really nice stepping stone to have something like a 10 meter that has all that extra power. And then if the wind does happen to kick up, so if the wind, for example, on my session when the wind did kick up to like 14, maybe even 15 at times, it was really nice to have that surf kite where I could sheet out and dump all the power. So that was a huge benefit for me. So another reason that I find this to be a compelling choice is because of the extra response that you do get from the lightweight material kites like the Aluula and the SLS. And with that 17 meter that I flew in the flight, it really did feel like a much smaller kite, and that becomes less noticeable as you get onto the smaller kites. That said, the 10 meter, it still did have the extra response, so it wasn't like a burden to fly like a 10 meter might be for a really experienced foiler who's always chasing that really small kite. The kite turned really fast, it was instant response, everything that you would expect out of a surf kite. And to this point, again, it's kind of a light wind advantage to have that, that bigger kite that extra little bit of grunt that you get, and then having that maneuverability that feels maybe more like akin to like a 9 meter or something like that. So just having that extra response is really welcomed, because with hydrofoiling, I'm sure a lot of you are finding as you're progressing on your hydrofoil journey, or maybe you figured this out years ago because you've been doing it for a while, but it's a lot more fun when you're using a reactive kite that you can really loop and create apparent wind and move around and carve on the water with your foil with. So getting that little extra response out of a 10 meter is definitely welcomed on this kite. Now as well, there is the added drift. And I'm gonna come out and say that I do think that there are still some surf kites that have a bit more drift than the Roam Aluula. I would say thus far, with my foil experience, not in the waves, but on the hydrofoils with 10 meter Roam Aluula, it seems to have a drift that's really similar to my Slingshot SST. Maybe kind of between that and like the Neo. They're pretty close in their drift and their feel like that, and then you just get that added benefit of that little extra light wind drift. So when you're in those scenarios where you're foiling and there's barely any wind there and you're going right downwind, you need the kite to just float through the sky, you're gonna get that from the Aluula material. So when I was sessioning, I did manage to get it to fall out of the sky by charging straight downwind and kind of sending the kite forward, and there's definitely a point where it will fall out of the sky on you, but you really have to almost be forcing it to make it happen. So it's a really reliable kite that you can count on to stay in the air when you need it to stay in the air in threshold winds. So moving on to the point of relaunching, something that I have been pleasantly surprised with these lightweight kites is, because they are so light, even when you're in really light winds, they just relaunch super easy. And the truth is, in the last probably 5 to 10 years, almost every kite relaunches easy now, as long as you're not using like something super niche. But I do find that there is a little added advantage in the extremely light wind scenarios with that Aluula material, where the kite just seems to pop up that much faster, and this has been universal across the board. So when I was on the Neo SLS, when I was on the Flight 17 in super light wind, and as well when I was out in probably like right around 9, maybe 10 knots, trying to relaunch this kite with that Roam 10, and it just popped right back up for me effortlessly. So that was, again, just another added benefit for those light wind hydrofoiling scenarios where I think this is a super good option. And then just kind of a side note here, I did mention in another video that I suspected that a heavier rider could go foiling with that Flight 17 because it flew in 6 knots and it seemed to perform really well in extremely light winds. So I decided to give this a go, and I went foiling with it, and pretty much what I expected to be true was true. At 185, as soon as the wind gusted maybe above like 11, something like that, I was getting blown off the foil. Just way too much kite. But back to that point that if you're a heavier rider, if you're like 200, 225, I think you could still foil with that kite, and then you might expect to get overpowered right around 12 knots, something like that. So just as an extreme light wind option, that Flight, even though it's a big kite, it does move fast. So it might be a good option for really heavy riders who are just looking for a little extra something from a kite that's not a bear of a kite, like a regular light wind 17 meter kite. And maybe you just can't make these 10 meters, 9, 7 meter kites work on the foils. So just something to think about. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you on some more of these Foil Fridays videos.